Most people think self-discipline feels powerful. They imagine confidence, control, respect, but no one tells you the truth. Self-discipline feels lonely, and if you're not prepared for that loneliness, you'll quit long before the results ever show up. You see, everyone loves talking about motivation. Everyone loves the highlights, the championships, the applause, the quotes. But discipline? Discipline is what happens when nobody is watching. And that's where most people disappear. There's a reason why Kobe Bryant was often alone. Not because he didn't like people, not because he was antisocial, but because while everyone else was sleeping, he was already in the gym. Imagine this. It's 4:30 inches the morning. The city is quiet. The streets are empty. No lights on. No noise. Just you and the echo of your footsteps. That silence? That's not peace. That's loneliness. And this is where most people fail. Because the moment discipline starts costing them connection, they begin to question it. Why am I the only one doing this? Why does nobody understand? Why does it feel like I'm sacrificing everything, while others are enjoying life? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Discipline separates you. It separates you from comfort. It separates you from excuses. And yes, it separates you from people. When Kobe chose to train while others rested, he wasn't chasing motivation. He was accepting isolation. Because discipline doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care if you feel understood. It only asks one thing. Are you willing to walk alone? For a long time? Most people say they want greatness. But what they actually want is greatness without isolation. They want success without being misunderstood. They want results without sacrifice. And that's why they never last. Because discipline isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't get applause. In fact, if you're doing it right, most people won't even notice. Kobe once said that the hardest part wasn't the workouts. It was knowing that while he was grinding, the rest of the world was living a completely different life, and being okay with that. This is the part nobody prepares you for. Not the pain, not the effort, but the distance. The distance between who you are and who you're becoming. The distance between your routine and everyone else's comfort. And if you mistake that distance for failure, you'll stop. You'll go back. You'll blend in. You'll become relatable again. But you'll never become elite. Because discipline doesn't feel lonely by accident. It feels lonely because it's rare. And rare paths are never crowded. Here's something most people never understand. The more disciplined you become, the less relatable you are. And that's not a flaw. That's the cost. When you start waking up earlier, while others are still asleep. When you start saying no, while others are still celebrating. When you choose repetition over excitement and preparation over pleasure. People don't clap. They question you. They say things like, "Why are you taking this so seriously? Relax a little. You're doing too much. Life isn't that deep." What they really mean is, your discipline is making me uncomfortable. Because discipline holds up a mirror. And most people don't like what they see. This is why Kobe Bryant stopped explaining himself. Not because he was arrogant. Not because he thought he was better. But because explaining costs energy. And energy is sacred. See, at a certain level, discipline demands silence. No convincing. No defending. No debating. Just execution. Kobe understood something early. If you wait for people to understand your discipline, you'll never move fast enough to outgrow them. So instead of asking for validation, he accepted isolation. This is where most people break. Not because the work is too hard, but because the social cost feels too high. They miss the jokes. They miss the group chats. They miss being included. And slowly, they start negotiating with their standards. I'll skip today. I deserve a break. Just this once. And that's how discipline dies. Quietly. Here's the hard truth. Discipline is not supported by crowds. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. It's protected by solitude. The gym is empty for a reason. The extra reps are lonely for a reason. The film room is quiet for a reason. That's where separation happens. And separation is uncomfortable. Until you understand this, you're not being left behind. You're being pulled ahead. Kobe wasn't lonely because he lacked people. He was alone because he chose growth over approval. Because when you're chasing mastery, you don't look for company. You look for precision. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness says, I wish they were here. Discipline says, I know why they aren't. Most people can't sit with themselves long enough to become dangerous. They need noise. They need affirmation. They need company. But discipline requires something else. Comfort with yourself. That's why self-discipline feels lonely. Because it forces you to confront who you really are. Without distractions. No applause. No excuses. No one to blame. Just you. And the standard you claim to live by. And that's exactly why it works. At some point, something shifts. The loneliness doesn't disappear. But it changes meaning. You stop asking, why am I alone? And you start understanding. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is the moment discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like alignment. Kobe didn't wake up early anymore to prove something. He did it because that's who he was. Not motivation, not hype, not emotion. Identity. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is something you do. But at the highest level, discipline is something you become. You no longer argue with yourself. You don't debate whether to show up. You don't negotiate with excuses. You just move. Because this is your normal now. And here's the truth most people aren't ready for. When discipline becomes your identity, loneliness turns into clarity. You start enjoying the quiet. The empty gym feels familiar. The repetition feels grounding. The silence feels focused. Because for the first time, there's no confusion about who you are. Kobe wasn't chasing confidence. Confidence is unstable. He was chasing certainty. Certainty that, when pressure arrived, his habits would answer for him. That's why he loved repetition. Not because it was exciting, but because repetition removes doubt. When you've done the work 1,000 times, fear has nowhere to hide. When your preparation is deep enough, pressure becomes irrelevant. This is what people don't see. They see the confidence on game night. They don't see the loneliness months earlier. When nobody believed, nobody cared, and nobody was watching. But that's where identity is forged. In the quiet, loneliness stops feeling like rejection. When you realize it's selection, you're not being pushed away. You're being shaped. And once that clicks, you stop craving understanding. You stop explaining your routine. You stop justifying your standards. You stop waiting for permission because you finally get it. Greatness doesn't come from being supported. It comes from being committed. Committed when it's boring. Committed when it's repetitive. Committed when it's lonely. This is why self-discipline feels lonely, because it's not designed for everyone. It's designed for the few, who are willing to build an identity in silence. And when the world finally notices, when the results show up, when the respect arrives, you won't need to explain anything, because the work already did. One day, you'll look back and realize something quietly powerful. The loneliness didn't break you. It built you. All those mornings when no one texted you. All those nights when you trained instead of celebrating. All those moments when you felt disconnected from the world you used to fit into. They weren't losses. They were investments. You weren't isolating yourself from people. You were separating yourself from distractions. This is the part nobody warns you about. Discipline doesn't reward you immediately. It lets you doubt yourself first. It lets you feel invisible first. It lets you wonder if any of this even matters. But discipline is patient. It waits. And then one day, the results speak before you ever have to. That's the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Not the rings, not the points, not the highlights, but the standard. A standard built in silence. A standard forged when the gym was empty, the lights were dim, and the world was asleep. Kobe didn't leave behind motivation. He left behind proof. Proof that obsession beats talent. Proof that consistency beats hype. Proof that discipline, when sustained long enough, turns loneliness into immortality. This is what people misunderstand. Self-discipline isn't about becoming better than others. It's about becoming unreachable by your former self. And that requires distance. Distance from comfort. Distance from noise. Distance from approval. If your discipline feels lonely right now, good. That means you're early. That means you're ahead of the conversation. That means you're still in the part of the story. Most people never survive. Don't run from that feeling. Let it sharpen you. Let it refine you. Let it teach you who you are when nobody is clapping. Because one day, the loneliness will be gone. Not because people finally understand you, but because you no longer need them to. And when that day comes, you won't talk about discipline. You won't post about discipline. You won't explain discipline. You'll embody it.